and I'll tell you bit by bit how we're going to realize our vision that any founder can open their computer, turn on a live stream, and raise money directly on the internet from anyone, anywhere in the world.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Ship Safely podcast. I'm your host, Sebastian, and today we have the one and only Adam Bergeman, founder and CEO of Star, a platform which is redefining early stage startup raises and how they raise capital on the internet. Adam is a serial founder with experience, building everything from a wellness brand in LA to handcrafted furniture in the Netherlands. Today, he's focused on Star.fun, which lets startups launch and raise capital entirely on chain. And you do this through live token sales. Think Twitch meets Kickstarter meets NASDAQ. And the goal is to just, make early stage investing as pain-free and open, as transparent and community-driven as possible. Adam, it's great to have you here.
Thank you, Seb. Appreciate it.
So to kick things off, there's a question I ask everyone at the beginning. Why should people stay and watch this episode? What should they take away?
That's a really good question. And also that intro was awesome. So thank you for that. I'm going to share a little bit about how we are trying to build the fastest and most transparent way of raising money on the internet. So if that idea sounds exciting to you, then you should stick around, and I'll tell you bit by bit how we're going to realize our vision that any founder can open their computer, turn on a live stream, and raise money directly on the internet from anyone, anywhere in the world.
I think probably interest a few folks out there, just a few.
And do it
All right,
safely and
so
securely. That's also important.
definitely,
Exactly.
definitely. So to kick things off, tell us a bit about yourself. You founded multiple businesses across very different industries, and now you're in Web3 and you started Star.fun. Tell us about the story. I bet it's amazing.
Yeah, so this goes way back actually to me growing up in a household of entrepreneurs. Russian immigrants, they fled the Soviet Union. They came first to the US and then Canada, where I was born. And they didn't have the means to work in the States because their credentials were not, I guess, respected or recognized. My father was a physicist. My mother had gone to school for English literature, so she had actually could speak very good English. But despite this, they had to first kind of clean toilets and make their way, and then they ended up starting their own businesses. And the classic sort of immigrant hustle of building your own life and kind of finding your way through entrepreneurship to provide for the family. So that's a household I grew up in. Both of my brothers also, they're a bit older than me. They're like 12, 15 years older. They also follow that path. My older brother especially was very influential in my upbringing. He had multiple businesses and was really this sort of icon of like the self-made man. And so from a young age already, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But my mom did want me to go to school. So I went and studied business in the Netherlands, in the beautiful city of Rotterdam, where I ended up in a classroom with lots of other like-minded, hungry, young individuals. And kind of since school already, I was like working on different projects. I worked at a coding school for war refugees. I learned how to code myself. I was organizing events in the city. I got involved with a tech startup in Belgium. Like I've always kind of had this like natural curiosity to go and try things and explore. And it was always like from a pursuit to, I guess, sort of push myself and learn new skills. So that's always kind of been in my DNA. After university, I went to work in the cannabis industry, which funny enough, you mentioned as wellness, which it is. But I'll be very clear and frank and say that it was the cannabis industry. The recreationally legal one was nothing under the hood. Worked there for 3 years. It was crazy. It was my first startup, pretty much like right outside of university. It was a conscious cannabis brand, which means that we're making more modern age cannabis products for the new consumer. So not things that would kind of put you on your ass, but microdose, very targeted wellness products rather than like max THC, max CBD kind of stuff. That went quite well. It was a crazy ride. We got our products onto shelves. We were selling, and then COVID hit, which basically shut the whole industry down. And me and my co-founder, who was one of my good university pals, we were stuck in LA and we're like, shit, like we can't keep doing this. So we shut the company down, moved on, then found my way into the furniture business, specifically natural stone. So my same co-founder, he ended up working for his family's company. He was like, hey, I think there's an opportunity to make tables. And I was like, I don't know anything about furniture, but I think I can figure this out. So we built a company called Gemma where users could design their own marble table through this 3D configurator that me and my current co-founder now actually built. That was the first business that I built with my now co-founder at Star. So we designed this product where you could make your own marble table with these giant slabs of natural stone. Um, and we set out to conquer the furniture market, which we had no like zero background in. Like definitely there's no founder market fit, if you can call it that. That went pretty well. Although at some point I realized I was like, this is not. I realized the importance of product founder market fit because it was not my hill to die on. I was selling to wealthy Dutch housewives, which was not really the persona that I was like trying to live the rest of my life serving. All love to them. And from there, got involved in a music startup, which I still run. It's a community in Amsterdam called Jazz Club. We do events at the intersection of jazz and electronic music. That's also been quite successful. We received multiple subsidies from the Dutch government, and it's kind of grown into a very big IRL community, which a lot of VCs apparently these days are really very bullish on IRL. And somehow through this, I got into trading meme coins. I'm trying to remember the exact connection, but I had a friend that introduced me to trading. He was like, "Hey, this is late 2024." He was like, "Hey, Trump's getting into office. Like, probably the whole market's going to pick up. Like, this is my trading strategy." So I sort of like got into crypto through this avenue, and I was specifically interested in the idea of meme coins, which is silly because there's so many more useful things in crypto than a meme coin. But that was my onboarding path. And I thought the idea of like a token that represented some piece of art or some cultural phenomenon was actually quite interesting. This got me onto Pump Fun. And then I discovered all of these early stage companies that were launching tokens for whatever reason to get attention or to raise money. And all of that was at the time kind of relatively unclear to me. I'd missed the ICO boom. I hadn't really participated in that. So I was quite new to crypto, sort of had always been adjacent to it, but never really involved. And I was living with my now co-founder, who was a quant analyst at a Dutch investment bank. And on the side, he was working on an open source reinforcement learning framework. And he was like, hey, this is really interesting. What if we decide to launch a token for the project and kind of see what happens? There was no strategy or thought. It was like, okay, let's take this thing and launch a shit coin on Pump Fund and kind of see what happens. I made a simple website for it. He had this GitHub repo that was somewhat usable, but very early stage, more of a research project than a tool at that stage, really. And we launched a token, and to our surprise, very quickly the thing flew to a $3 million market cap within 20 minutes. There was 50,000 people that had seen the tweet of the contract address on X. And I remember we were together and we looked at the wallet that we had bought tokens from publicly through Pump Fund, so everyone could see that we held those tokens. And we saw $750,000 worth of tokens in that wallet. And it's a pretty mind-blowing experience to see this kind of sum of money basically appear out of nowhere. And my co-founder at the time was like, sell it. Like, just rug the thing. And I looked at him and I was like, no, like, let's like, this is some by some weird coincidence, this is like an opportunity for us to like try and build this project. Let's actually go ahead with it. Within a week, the token was at a $15 million market cap. That 750K had become way more. We had locked the tokens away in a vesting contract, but we quickly realized that like the mechanics that had underpinned the token launch and the sale were just not conducive to funding or running an early stage startup. We didn't get any money off of trading fees. We couldn't sell tokens without holders panicking and basically dumping their shares, which would have dropped the whole price. So we saw the whole thing go up and down, and we couldn't raise any money. We had been on phones with multiple market makers, super sketchy experiences, where they would buy $200,000 worth of tokens from us for 50,000. It was just a very convoluted, janky, stressful. I definitely gained a couple white hairs in those weeks, and by the end of it, we're like, oh fuck! Like, why was there no better fundraising platform for a project like this? And so that's where the origin story for Star began. We experienced this pain ourselves. Like a token launch was completely convoluted, and that's kind of how we came to the initial idea for Star, which is basically to build a better fundraising platform for early stage founders on Solana.
Nice. That, like I asked for, or I anticipated an amazing story, and I think like that even topped it,
That
if that's even
was the full,
possible. Like,
full unfiltered story. Yeah.
so, you basically answered my next two questions at this point. So I'm gonna jump into the following one, which is like you yourself also raised money on your own platform, right? And after the experience you just told us about on Pump.fun and what happened to that project, what was it like to raise funds on your own platform? And how's it different?
So we started building the platform in March. In July, we raised, with Star being the first fundraise on the platform. Um, we have this philosophy in the team that if we're going to sell a product or a feature to founders, we have to use it ourselves, to truly get an understanding of whether it works, whether it makes sense. It's the whole principle of dog fooding it. I mean, I think it's kind of the best way to ensure you're building something that people want and it's useful. So we decided to raise as the first launch on the platform. We had a 7-day sale, which at the time people had told us that it was like an eternity in crypto days, which in hindsight they were right about. We had set a target to raise 250K and a max of 500K for 20% of supply. And if we
Awesome.
didn't hit the minimum, investors would get refunded. And then anything north of the maximum would get refunded back to investors. So basically a excess refund. We had prepared a lot for this raise. We had the backing of Meteora, one of our close partners. Solana Foundation was excited about what we were doing. And we launched the thing with a big hurrah. And the first day we raised $10,000. And that pretty much didn't move at all until the 6th day. I think it was like 20K on the 6th day. I remember waking up and
Racking.
being like, oh, shit, this doesn't look like it's going to work out. But we were all together in a room and we were building nonstop. I'll see if I can pull up a visual here because this is quite fun to look at. Yeah, here we go. We were all together in a room and we were calling people, building, shipping. Like it was total founder mode for that whole week. And I remember we were on the way to the grocery store um, to get club mate, which is like you're probably familiar. It's like a European
Yeah.
drink.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
of
an
course.
energy drink, but a more classy version of an energy drink. And I was sitting in the car and I was like, what we're doing is so exciting and so cool and so fun. I wish we could put a camera in the corner of the room and show people who we are and what we're doing. Because I was pouring my heart out into phone calls. I was pitching investors. I was pitching founders who were interested in raising with us. And I somehow felt like we weren't translating that to the people that had seen us and had checked out the sale. So what we did is we turned on a live stream and we put a camera in the corner of the room. Can you see this, by the way?
Yeah, yeah, I can see it. Yeah. I think I
And
saw it at that
yeah,
time when you were doing this. Yeah.
okay, cool. Yeah, so we basically turned on a camera and we recorded for 24 hours the last day of the raise. And in those 24 hours, we raised 500K. So we closed the raise successfully. And what you see here is the moment at which we hit 100K and had this realization that, we might just actually make it.
Nice.
So yeah, that was like the origin story. That's how we ended up like closing our round. And that's also where the idea of live startup fundraising came from. We had somehow stumbled on it as an experiment and we realized it's actually super exciting and more importantly, super fun for people to tune into. And that I think was like the defining factor that helped us close the raise.
That's so cool. Very original idea there. Like, I remember seeing that and it was like, wow, this is something I've never seen before. So, Star.fun basically lets anyone launch a live token sale and raise publicly, right? How does it work from a founder's perspective?
Yeah, so it's not anyone can raise. What we're building is
Okay.
is a curated platform. We've for a long time gone back and forth on the idea of like, should it be fully permissionless like a pump fund, or should it be highly vetted like any of the other launch pads that came before? What we've done for our first 5 raises, which have collectively raised about 1.5 million, we've been just selective and done due diligence, kind of curated founders on like from our own network and using the team as a curation mechanism, which has mostly been myself. What we realize is that this isn't really scalable. So what we're building now, which I'll pull up as well in a sec, is basically a model that scales curation using the intelligence of markets. So we're trying to take the all-encompassing intelligence of financial markets and apply that to the curation process behind who gets to raise on the platform. And our thesis for this is that if you have effective curation, then founders will raise more and they will raise faster because all of the attention on the platform will be concentrated on one founder at a time. We don't think that permissionless startup fundraising will work. This is a strong opinion that's loosely held though, where we are experimenting and obviously we'll see how this next phase of the experiment pans out. But we think that this is a stronger bet rather than just opening the gates and letting anyone raise. So I'll pull this up. Let's see.
I
Okay.
really like this idea of having, a more curated experience. It doesn't seem like it's total chaos, it seems more controlled.
Yeah. So what you're seeing here is this is a chart, the trading chart. Each of these elements represents a project on the platform, excluding Star, which is our native token. The way it works is founders apply. They fill out a pretty comprehensive form with their project info, their terms, how much they're looking to raise, the team, anything that you might expect before investing in a public sale. Then they enter into a curation market. Basically, what this is a trading interface where people can trade between conditional markets attached to each project to determine who actually wins a fundraising slot on the platform. So we're outsourcing the curation to the markets, which will be run by traders. Each of these is a project, and where you see market cap here, that represents the conditional market cap of Star in the case that this project raises. So people are trying to bet on what will have the best outcome for the platform. So there's financial incentive behind it. So what you do is you deposit USDC or you deposit Star, and then you use each of these markets. You can either buy it with USDC, which will drive the price up, or you can sell Star, which will drive the price down, to essentially express your vote for who gets to raise with real financial incentive, with like you're actually putting money down. So there's skin in the game. Um, and the idea here is that we'll run a daily curation market and a daily fundraise. So at any given moment, when you come to the platform, you'll see the best startup of that day fundraising. So as an investor, if you're not interested in curating, that's fine. You will just be able to come to the platform and see the curation of the day. And if you want to go deeper and be involved in the curation and you can make money doing so, then you can. You can come and trade these markets and express your decision on who you think gets to raise. But the idea is that the curators do the work that we were doing internally, which is DD, speaking to the teams. You can chat to them here. You can watch a live stream, to essentially become a scalable filtering mechanism for quality on the platform. So rather than there being 100 raises open at the same time, which is incredibly capital inefficient because you invest in a raise, you would have to wait 24 hours to get your money back if it doesn't succeed. We're essentially distilling that curation process before the raise opens so that all of the attention and capital just flows into one project at a time. So when you ask how we select who gets to raise, this is the bet that we're taking on uh, basically having a filtering mechanism to curate and surface the best startups so investors get curated deal flow.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you've mentioned live streaming just now. How does that work? Like, how does social fundraising basically
Yeah.
work? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So I got a little bit deep in the mechanism sauce there, which I tend to do. The like core underpinning of all of this, like from the outside in, is live interactive fundraising. So founders will have live streams on, you can chat to them. They'll be sharing pitch decks, they'll be sharing demos. We also do Shark Tanks where founders get to pitch reputable VCs and angels and operators live. So we're really anchoring on this idea of like next gen media meets fundraising. So everything you see here it's against the backdrop of live streams and live chats. So the social layer is really important to us. We're just baking these intricate mechanics underneath to make the platform more than just what you would see on Pump Fund, which is live streaming and token launches. We're really trying to engineer a system that works and works at scale and can scale. But again, the social layer is the layer that sits on top of that, and that's what makes the whole thing exciting and fun.
100%. So getting back to more sort of like the security part, um, I can see, a lot of things going, not as you intended. So what's your approach to, different things like trust, fraud prevention, compliance? What do you do at the protocol level or at the human level to ensure the platform stays trustworthy?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things there. On a protocol level, contracts are audited by the best auditing agencies in the world, Adevar including. Um,
You?
that's kind of like I think a hygiene factor. What we do to protect investors and basically protect them from extreme downside is founders are kind of required to choose um, a model to accrue value to their token, and one of those is Futarchy, which many are familiar with. It basically puts the raised funds under control of decision markets, which is the exact same infrastructure we're using to curate teams. But now that infrastructure is being used to make decisions as to how the raised money is spent. Founders get a monthly a monthly allowance sent to them automatically. Anything more, they need to create a proposal for that. Markets will trade those proposals. So they can't just take the money and run. There's a real mechanism in place that ensures that they're getting their monthly burn automatically, and if anything larger is done with oversight. Through this same mechanism, if founders turn out to be incredibly malicious, if they fake metrics or do anything that deems them to be an untrustworthy actor, the markets can also create a proposal to unwind their treasury and return funds back to investors. And we actually had this happen recently. There was a team that raised through Star that we'd done the DD on, that we had good relations with, but later it turns out that they had made pretty substantial misrepresentations on previous investment that they'd raised, and also on how much revenue they were actually making and which customers were actually confirmed paying customers. So a group of investors who had invested and were pretty unhappy, they created a proposal, and that proposal ended up leading to their treasury getting refunded back to investors. And as a founder, this sucks because I'd help them raise. I like the team. They're good people. But as an investor, I'm very happy that people could see their money getting returned and decide to allocate it elsewhere. I think it's a great thing. So
Yeah.
this is a pretty robust mechanism for ensuring, your money doesn't go to zero. Um, we also have another model that we're exploring with the Bedrock Foundation, which is a branch of Meteora that's essentially offering a form of tokenized equity to founders that want to raise on chain. And Meteora is essentially underwriting equity on behalf of token holders through a sort of SPV type structure. And Meteora will, or Bedrock specifically, will act as the litigator in case of a malicious action. So let's say the founder sells the company and doesn't return money back to token holders. Bedrock will go and litigate on behalf of the token holders. So we're thinking really on not just how to build a platform that is founder friendly and helps them raise money quickly and efficiently, and from a community that wants to see them win, but also how to make a platform that has investors coming back. Because the problem you see with platforms like Pump Fund is that, 90% of people lose money on Pump and they churn and they just don't come back. So I think striking a balance between founder and investor friendly is quite important.
So you're the mature fundraising platform in the room.
The tagline I've said to people is Pump Fund for smart people.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So we've reached the rapid fire closeout. So in this one, we have like some quick questions, which I'll ask you if you could answer them with like one sentence or one word even. The first one is, what do you think is one mistake that new founders make when launching a token?
Lack of communication.
I guess you could expand on this forever, but I'll get to the next one. The second question is like, if you could name one crypto tool or platform that you think more people should be paying attention to.
Our partners at Combinator that power all of the decision market infrastructure are arguably some of the smartest, most capable people I've come across in my brief time on Solana. And I think more people should be paying attention to what they're doing because they're essentially democratizing access to decision-making infrastructure. And as financial markets permeate more and more layers of society, DMs, decision markets, are probably going to be used for more types of decisions. And they're building the infra that turns that into a primitive. And it's incredibly fascinating. And I think they don't get the love that they deserve for the complexity and intricacy of what they're building. So yeah, it would be Combinator.
Next up, we have a question from our previous guest, which was Shimon from Moto. Um, and he basically, I mean, like he's asking if the trad players come, but like I think like when the trad players come, how's your product gonna win? How's it better than whatever they will be building? What they have.
Mm, I refuse to believe that TradFi can make a product that is as exciting and functional as us. I think platforms like Star can only be born out of a series of experiments and weird turn of events and serendipitous meeting of certain team members that have a certain set of skills. And I don't think that TradFi institutions or players can think like that. I I don't think they could have invented a pump fund either, or any of these businesses that are now incredibly successful and basically managed to turn a new to create a new financial asset that people want to invest in or speculate on. Um, there's like a certain degree of like internet nativity that you need to have to be able to create these kind of things. So
Yeah.
I'm not so worried about TradFi players as I'm worried about competing with platforms like Pump Fund and MetaDAO and the other launch pads. I think they have a much better chance of taking the crown than, like a spin-off from a institutional VC fund or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Do you have a question for our next guest?
Yes, I think it is a selfish question because it is something that I think about a lot. I think the question is, what do you think it will take to bring the next generation of startups on chain?
That's deep. Which startups are you thinking about here? Like the next generation, as the next generation, like AI
It's
maybe,
the
or
Yeah, I mean, I think that what you're saying is a good hint. Here at the Solana Foundation, they see agentic wallets as a bridge to onboard people to crypto. But by next generation, I mean like the future cohorts of Y Combinator and H of Zero and anywhere where talent is now converging. Like, what will it take to bring them to either raise on chain or do business on chain? That's what I spend a lot of my time thinking about because we're in an industry that historically has had a pretty bad reputation, and some of that still lingers. But I spent the last week or so in San Francisco meeting with a lot of these incubators and founders, and I got a sense that that reputation is fading, and that they actually are just seeing it as fintech and as a much more efficient, transparent, and easy way to do finance. So I think we're on this like tipping point or on the cusp of seeing more mass adoption, which we're obviously really excited about.
that's a great note to end the podcast on. Thank you very much, Adam. Can you tell our viewers where they can find you online? Maybe write you a message or read more about Star.fun.
Yeah, for sure. So our URL is star.fun, literally how you say it. You can find us on X at star.fun. My handle is Adam Creates, which is my X handle or my Telegram. So if you want to reach out, you can DM me on TG or X, and I'd be happy to jam on yeah, pretty much anything really.
So yeah, definitely reach out to Adam. He has like a lot of various backgrounds, right? So like I remember you were doing the vinyl hunting, right, in Georgia at Forma. That was so cool. I didn't know
Yeah,
the background behind it, but now I do.
yeah.
So thanks a lot for being on, and
Thanks for having me.
yeah, ship safely.
As always, ship safely. Thanks.